Right. Here we go.
Okay. In a world of capes and lunatics, gods and monsters, there are those who walk above and below. There are those who seek to understand their place. One of these who seeks to do good despite the evil in the world is Moon Knight. And this is his story. Avast ye hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I am ye Captain Charlie, the Professor-esser. And with me, as always, is my skinny rich friend and first mate.
It's Mozz.
It's Mozz. Hey, Mozz. My beloved child, please do not talk over the show. Thank you. I know, well, you were doing your own thing, but I'm trying to... that's the problem with a lot of people in your life. They're wonderful. They give you joy, but they also give you pain, which honestly I think is a great lead-in to tonight's episode. The Tomb. Season 1, episode... Where's my number? 4. Season 1, episode 4. Mark and Steven must find balance as supernatural threats ahead. Look to stop them. Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead are directors. Our writers are Alex Minahan. I'm getting the full list here. Okay. So we've got Alex Minahan, Peter Cameron, and Sabir Prezata, who are all get writing credits, but there's nothing next to their names. Jeremy Slater, of course, gets our created for television by, and of course Doug Monk and Don Perlin get our created by for the Moon Knight character himself, and Danielle Iman, hardest working person in the show business. That's our staff writer.
Let's go.
All right, Mozz. This is an interesting episode. Of course, it opens up just after the last episode. Now we're in that spot where we're opening up just after the last episode. It's a good place to be in with most of these shows. I have found that like a lot of these shows, they have some pretty, in this like six to 8 episode arc. As we're getting in these short run shows, you have this moment where people sort of, you have certain beats you hit. And one of the beats you hit is the coming together of time, where things start to move at an accelerated pace. And what happens in the last episode is directly into this episode. We've seen it in WandaVision, where between the first few episodes, the time passage was a question, but by the time you get to the later half of the episodes, it's like direct 1 to 1 to 1 to 1.
Right. It's like sort of timelines converge. They're bringing you like a story from the past, and this is happening sort of here. And then when they meet up, that's when they get to the good part of the story. It's almost like, I'm gonna tell you this story, but first you got to know a little bit of the background. And once everything comes together, once you get a sense of the scope and the consequences, then we can move forward and you can care about what's about to happen.
Yeah. This is why we have Luis in the Ant-Man films. In all honesty, the man should be in every single film because he gets you up to speed,
Yeah. And he could tell me that story 17 times and it would be funnier every single time.
Oh, well, I'm sure. Well, I apologize, I'm blanking on the actor's name, but the character is amazing and the talent is amazing behind the character. So that is
Pena. It's Michael Pena, I think.
Michael Pena, it is. That is
correct.
I think
so. Right.
Yeah, my brain returned that as you said it, which my brain confirmed it.
That's called teamwork
on its own, but as soon as you said it, my brain was like, "Oh yeah, that's right."
That's called teamwork. That's
how it works. Anyway, moving right along. So what I find interesting about this, as we open up, Mark or Steven, whoever is out, and we can see this. In fact, as the bad guys drive up, they say, "He looks dead,"
Uh-huh.
which, I mean, I appreciate they say he looks dead.
Right.
It's your classic comic mistake. I mean, he looks dead, you know.
Right.
But I
But
do
like,
love
they don't know they're living in a comic book universe, to them
no,
things have to seem real at some point, at some point you got to say like, otherwise I'm not going to believe anything I see and I'm going to be a flat earther,
yeah, although I guess at some point at some point in this universe, people should start to clue in.
Right. Yeah.
We've had living
Well, I mean,
legends
like,
before.
hey, look, he didn't get dusted away, right? He's still there, so there's a chance he might be alive. Although even when you get dusted, you get brought back. So what does it all mean?
Honestly, well, and that's an interesting question we're going to get to later in future episodes. But right now, yeah, they say he look. And to be fair, I don't want to impugn the quality of their work. But they say, well, he looks dead. And then they're in the same area, so they're looking for someone else. So, well, let's look at the truck. And
well, although I mean, I can sort of see their thinking might have been that he's not a threat, right? Let's go see if there's any other threats around before we start investigating. Just make sure our backs are covered, and then we'll investigate the dead body.
Right, and they do, and we do have Layla here. I'm always trying not to call her Marlena, which is the name of the love interest in the comics, which, we'll see what happens. But Layla, she hides in the van and all this stuff. And this is a weird moment. And this is a weird moment that I think is going to have some payoff later. Where as the truck is driving towards her, they show the open case of bullets, and it's sort of implied that she hears the rattling of the bullets, that she's being given this knowledge, because that feeds into the whole plan she has, which is lighting off a flare, attracting their attention, then letting off another flare and throwing it into where this box of ammo is, that winds up exploding all the ammo and killing the two guys. Now, granted, all that ammo probably could have killed her and Steven too, but as luck would have it, it did not. But I do think that there is an interesting aspect of it, that she can see this, that there is this extra perceptory knowledge that she is gaining in this moment, lets her throw the.
You think it's that, or were they trying to show us that through these adventures with Mark, that she has become a pretty competent operator?
I mean, I suppose that's a possibility, and I guess immediately you could make that guess. But I guess when you do
in the
zoom
universe
out,
that we're in, I guess it's easy to see it in that direction as well.
Yeah, it's like, wow, that is really lucky.
Yeah,
that they had an open bottle of ammo there. And it's just that they show it. Effectively, they establish that it exists. And I get the feeling that there was the sense that she was aware of it. Because they show it, and there is this, you do up the volume of the sound of it clinking, which, again, in a quiet desert, maybe, yeah, that is exactly what you're saying, that she's listening for that sound. She hears that metal upon metal.
Right, but I mean, there's a specific sound to bullets. If you spend a lot of time at a gun range, that is a very specific sound that perhaps activates a very, very specific portion of your brain that says, like when I said Michael Pena, you're like, yep, that's it.
Exactly.
Right? So maybe to them, that specific sounds like, oh, whoa, open casings. Oh, I got this,
Yeah. Well, and for what it's worth, it works. It works amazingly. And then she wakes up Stephen, and they do the drive to the temple because they did find the temple, or at least they found the triangulation in the last episode. Whether or not all the rigmarole was necessary, that's debatable.
Hmm.
That's what we call the fridge logic, as Alfred Hitchcock would say. But in this moment, we're going to say they're driving there, and we do see a conversation with, and it's fun to see Stephen kind of in control. Because Mark is not able to just take over or to move. Stephen is in charge and is going to tell Layla what he wants to tell her. And he doesn't necessarily lie to her. He says we had a deal that when our deal with Kanchu was done, he'd go away. Which is true. He did say that. But their deal with Kanchu isn't necessarily done because the mission isn't done. But at the same time, Kanchu is now imprisoned. So it's interesting how that all plays out. And then that gets us to the temple, and it's surprisingly abandoned.
Right, but look, so because it makes me think, like, why would Mark even make that bargain, right? Because he obviously doesn't mean it, or does he intend to carry on it, right? But if he believes he is the original personality, then he's not really making a promise to anything, right? He's just making a promise to a figment, like a ghost.
Well, I suppose there's a more complex issue, and I will say this. If you watch that in the next episode, there's more information that's given. But in this moment, especially from Steve's perspective, it is a deal that was made.
Right, right.
And to be fair,
but it's like making a deal with a 5-year-old, you know?
Well, no, because the actual reality of it is,
not that you shouldn't be honest with 5-year-olds. That's not what I'm saying. But
no. But the idea is so it's this idea that it's all within your own mind,
right?
And every deal you make with yourself,
you
make with yourself. And at the end of the day, even though you did that thing you did not want to do, you still did it because you wanted to do it. And from Mark's perspective, the argument to be made is Mark wants to be Stephen. Mark isn't really into being Mark. Mark would love to be Stephen. Mark would love to be Stephen and live the life of Stephen and be Stephen Grant, archaeologophile, and just live that wonderful life.
He wants Stephen to win because it's still him, but
but it's the best him,
right? And it's
a
version of him that doesn't have to carry the weight of the responsibility of his actions, because you can say, "Oh, that wasn't me," and the world will believe you.
Exactly, which is why I think in this story, even though Mark clearly wants to be back in, Steve can keep him at bay. Although it's interesting because within this, there's still these weird, and it's what you might call a twitch. If you're, if you've ever, read about or suffer from Tourette's, it's this idea of this convulsion you can't control that just occurs, but is not necessarily the thing, because after he kisses Layla and he's about to go down, suddenly he punches himself in the face. And there's an interesting question that you ask at that moment as a watcher is, did Mark retake control? Is Stephen still in charge? Who hit who in the face and why? And that's an open question that we don't ever really get resolved,
What would your
because of
best
course
guess be? My guess is that Mark punched Steven, who's in control, and Mark had a modicum amount of control that takes a lot of energy to
yeah,
exert, but that was worth it. So
yeah. And this is sort of this thing, sort of so here's the thing Johnny Depp once told me. Not really Johnny Depp told me, but it was when he was being interviewed. He was talking about apparently Johnny, and I'm assuming it's Johnny Depp. I could be mistaken on that, but he likes to drive across country. And just to show you how old I am, just show you how old Johnny Depp is. He was talking about the cigarette lighter in a car. Because they don't know what that is, but they used to have a cigarette lighter in your car.
now it's a USB port.
Yes. Now it's actually, well, I mean, and some that's USB port, and others it's a AC adapter. Yeah, I don't see that anyone has ever made. I haven't seen that, like an AC adapter cigarette lighter.
Yeah, with the glow orange thing.
Oh, those were beautiful. But basically, what he says, when you drive cross country, you will get the best way to keep yourself from falling asleep is to push in the cigarette lighter, take it out, and jam it into your forearm.
That'll do it.
And that'll wake you right up.
I mean,
yeah. And he says, yeah, but the thing is that once you do that once, anytime as you're driving, you start to get tired, when you reach over to the cigarette lighter, you immediately wake up.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because your body just remembers, oh, no. Okay. Yes. Okay, we're driving. We're doing just fine.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it gives you that little adrenaline push because you need it. But that's Johnny Depp for you. Him and Amanda Heard they're having an issue right now. But that is another story for another podcast. Right now, that idea of hitting yourself. But so anyway, within that, what I was getting to is when I drive cross country, I've never done Johnny Depp's trick, but no, I do.
I wouldn't recommend it.
As you're driving, I will slap myself. I'll just, okay, I'm getting tired. Hit myself, and it's a much milder pain, but it does wake you up. And you do that, and it freaks out everyone in my car when I start doing that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yes. But it works and it keeps you awake, and it's you
know what it does for the person sitting next to you? Oh, it wakes them right the hell up.
Yeah. Well, it would be nice if everyone else could drive in my car. That's always my problem. It's like I would be happy to be that guy in the passenger seat.
I hear you.
But I'm the only guy that knows how to drive. Yeah. Anyway. I know. Well, as soon as Ben gets his driver's license, that's his job.
Right. He'll be the designated driver. We'll go fishing.
That is the goal. That's why you have kids, so that someone else can drive one day. Anyway, but the idea, but that's the idea, is that I don't even know why we got into this, but in that moment,
the self,
Mark hits himself, and it's this idea that you hit yourself because you are mad at yourself, or you're trying to do something to yourself, even though you're still the one in control and you're still the self. So it's interesting, this. And
it's basically like, oh, you idiot.
Yeah. Well,
to yourself,
Yeah. But in this moment, there's also this idea that I was wondering, like, is it now Mark in charge? And he's just pretending to be Steven?
Isn't that what it is?
Well, I mean, arguably, yes, it is. That's the thing. It's like,
right.
At the end of the day, it is this idea. And I do think that as it plays out in this, I think this is much more about the integration of Mark and Steven. And to put it simply, I think a lot of what we're doing here is integrating these two personalities. We say two, but there may be another. Yes, the new episode came out. We can watch it later. We'll talk about it later too. Came out yesterday. So in this moment, Mark and Steven are working through their stuff. And Steven goes down. Steven is still ostensibly in control. And we can tell it's Steven expressly because he still has all that nerd lore. All that nerd lore that was probably a driving aspect in Mark's life, but that he did wind up separating out from who he was as a person. Because we see this, we see this later, because first we have to fight a mummy. Which was weird as heck. Honestly, I just have to say, fighting the mummy was weird because it didn't seem that the mummy was on anyone's side. Like the mummy wasn't on Harrow's side. The mummy was just mummifying all of Harrow's people. And
yeah, I mean, that's like, because that's what ancient curses do, right?
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, that is exactly what the ancient curse is doing. It is saying, sir, this is ancient. This is an ancient Imperial temple pyramid. Go the heck away. If you've come in here, that this is a mummy's only zone, sir.
Right.
I'm happy to welcome you in, but you have to be a mummy if you're going to be here.
Like, I don't know, any entity like that that's ever been woken up, their first question is, who dare disturbs my whatever, right?
Yes.
But like, they don't, like, does Amit really want to be woken up, or is this guy convinced that Amit wants to be woken up?
Well, I mean, that is the question. That is the question. That is what leads to the final reveal at the end. But getting to there is a few steps, because I do want to give all the emotional journey a bit of its weight here, because obviously we do have this whole scene, both with the avoiding the mummy, fighting the mummy. They have the whole thing where we rip the arm off the mummy, and the mummy tries to stab you with the radius. And then a nice bit with Harrow and Layla, where basically Harrow, and again, Harrow is just a jerk. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
And everything he says, is a lie. What I will say is everything Harrow says is the truth for his own purposes.
Right.
Like, he never told a lie, but you had to ask more questions. And I think that is what is the real crux of the...
Right. That's why they have to follow it. Are you going to tell us the truth? By the whole truth.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Well, he doesn't tell you the whole truth. He tells you a part of the truth.
A truth. It's a truth.
It tells you a truth that helps the story.
Right.
Which sadly is what most people understand usually do. Unless it's very messy, in which case they, start talking out of school, and then, that's how you get convicted.
One would argue that isn't that your only prerogative?
Yeah. Well, you have... Well, because you have the Fifth Amendment that says you don't have to incriminate yourself. No,
but just, like, as a living being, that's your only imperative, is to propagate that's your job as a creative being that gets to mold the world, is to shape it in your way, and your moral imperative should be to do that, in a sense. I mean, I don't know. I think I'm getting off on a...
No. I mean, I think it's a fair cop. That's a fair cop. That's a fair cop. But anyway, so in this moment, Harrow makes the suggestion to Layla that, Mark was there when your dad was murdered, yada, yada, yada. Mark was one of the people, which leads to our confrontation with Mark, which is specifically Steven, and because this is when they find the inner temple, they realize that this is the temple, that this is the burial place of not just any pharaoh, the Macedonian pharaoh, the great, who was Amet's avatar on Earth before Amet got told to sit they butts down by the Aeneid, Alexander the Great.
Hmm.
So he finds Alexander's tomb, and then they realize that, this is Amet's hidden place. They realize that Amet has been both bound into a statue and put into the mummified body of Alexander, which actually means that Stephen has to tear off Alexander's jaw, reach into the gutsy parts to pull out the little statue of Amet.
Although what gut? I mean, I guess it is mummified, but what guts could possibly be left in there that are not just dried husks ready to be?
No. I mean, yeah, it's dry. It's not like you're reaching through sawdust, but
yeah.
I mean, actually, from my perspective, it's just like, oh, I fancy myself an archaeologist, and this is the single greatest archaeological find of the last 3, 4, 5 millennia. I'm just gonna rip its jaw off and root around in here looking for a buried treasure.
It's icky. That's your problem right now. People are trying.
No, it's not that it's icky. It's that it is not good archaeology, sir.
Oh,
that's the problem.
Yeah. That should have been a way bigger concern.
Yeah, that's the concern. But obviously, fate of the world is at stake, arguably, and so we have to do what we have to do.
I feel like they made him a little too wicked sometimes.
This actually winds up. Yeah, well, I mean, also it is still a dead body. It's a dry dead body, but it is still a dead human corpse. So I can see how you have that aspect too.
Sure.
But they reach in, they pull it out. We do get a confrontation with Layla and Stephen, and Stephen then lets Mark out to tell the story, where he basically says, you know what, I didn't want that to happen, and when I realized that the guy the mercenary leading us was going to pull this, I tried to get everybody out of there, and they killed us. Which is to say that, it wasn't that Mark killed Layla's father. In fact, he was trying to save him. He just couldn't.
Let's revisit that story and tell it properly. He died trying to save her father. Right?
Well, arguably, yeah.
The fact that he came back to life, does that take away from his sacrifice?
Yeah,
Did he know he was going to come back to him? That was the end of his life. He died. He gave his life trying to save her father.
Well, although I guess to go back to the start of this episode, he looks dead. He looked dead. He was probably going to be dead. We're assuming he was going to be dead. Yeah. We're assuming that
no one could have survived that. Oh, don't you love that line?
Exactly. But that leads us to the secondary aspect of this, which is Harrow coming back and Harrow shooting Mark. Although I will say this is the thing about this. It's a no blood shoot. Now, maybe that's because it's on Disney Plus.
There was a little bit of blood.
No, there was powder burns. There was no blood.
I thought there was a little bit of blood around.
No, it is all black or brown.
Right. Well, okay.
That's not what you would expect from 2 chest wounds.
Yeah, I guess.
Basically, you don't even see
so
blood.
What could it mean if there's no blood then?
He could have been wearing a vest.
Oh.
He could have been wearing a vest, and he was knocked unconscious and fell into the water, which actually could still kill you because you can still drown.
Right.
But the fact that you were wearing a vest means maybe you're not dead yet. And I think that's the real point of that whole thing. But that gets us to the next scene, where, as it turns out, Mozz, it was all a dream.
What?
Mark is just another sedated patient in the Putnam facility for the mentally ill in Chicago, Illinois, with the good Dr. Harrow as his. This is your classic. Actually, Batman's just an insane asylum, and all of his villains are his doctors trying to get through to him. This poor troubled man. I know Ray will be mad I made a Batman comparison, but still, this is.
I mean, they did the same thing in Joker too, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. This is the parody that that you've been waiting for, and it's one that they've done many times. I don't know if they've done it in Batman very much, but the idea of Mark Spector or Stephen Grant needing to break out of the mental institution, that's something that has been done, and it always comes back to the fact that no, he is Moon Knight. Although, as I've always said, in a fictional universe, if you need to break through, if you're fictional, you need to break through into reality. That reality is still fictional. It's like yes, now I'm just a mental patient, and it was all a dream, but it was always a dream. Because I'm still in the Matrix no matter what. Because no matter what a fictional character does, they're still within the structure of that fictional universe. So they can break out from one level, maybe even break the fourth wall. But even that fourth wall they're breaking is still within their own universe. So
it's almost, if you think about it, you breaking through the fourth wall forces the program to create a world beyond it. And in order for the world beyond it to exist, it has to have a framework around it, necessitating the pre-born stew of things that need to be there so that the new world can exist once eventually you break that eighth wall. So it's exactly. It's like you're causing that to happen, and that's why you can never get there.
Exactly, and that is the basic conception problem. How many times can you wake up in a dream? And as a person who has woken up at least 6 or 7 times in a single dream, I know it happens.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I've done that because
like 6 layers deep. Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah, and it's always just before you actually wake up.
And so you're not talking about like waking up and going back, but like waking up and being somewhere else, and then waking up from there and being somewhere else, and then going,
not like.
Oh, I was about to say, man, that sounds amazing.
Although to be fair, that is often the case in certain structures. So sometimes you can wake up and you're in a room,
right?
And you're in that room. Now that room isn't reality. That room is the dream's reality. And then you start worrying about things in this reality about time, which usually relates to your actual life, but are in some way also in their own dreamlike state. And then you go into the next one and the next one, and you will sometimes fall back into deeper dreams. So like you'll be very tired in your dream when you wake up. You'll close your eyes in the dream and then go back to the other dream, but now it's also a little different and influenced, and there's lots of ways it works out. It's weird, but yeah, you can do that, like multiple layer waking up in a dream.
That sounds.
It's like weird, but if you are sleeping at the surface,
it would be so jarring. Like dreams by themselves are jarring, and when you wake up from a dream and you have like this sense of what's real and what's not, where am I, is jarring enough. Now imagine if after encountering that feeling, you didn't have the immediate assurance of going, oh no, okay, this is that, oh that was a dream, and if that calculation is broken, what would that do for how you see anything and everything?
Well, I mean, to be
break
fair,
your mind.
I will say this is that there is a difference in how your brain operates when it's in a dream state and when you're in reality. And so it's like, in reality, although this isn't always the case, but it's really a case that you can only see if you know what to look for. And it's like, I am relatively confident that this is reality right now.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I do know that, I've been in dreams that have felt this real. So it's weird. But anyway, in this moment, that is where Mark is. Because it is Mark here. And we see that they've got him sedated.
Yes, 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 yes.
We see, we see a lot of people here. Some of whom may be dead, some of whom may not be. We see Crowley. There is the bingo caller. That's the pantomime artist who does the bronze man in the town. Which I have to say this right now, I really am impressed by that actor, that he had that skill set to be a bronze man.
Yeah.
Because that is a skill set. You think it's not a skill set to just remain motionless, even for like several takes?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, it's hard. And then to always be in that spot, it really is a skill set. It's a pantomime skill set, and then you do the movements and all that kind of stuff. But I really here he is getting to do his lines and everything in the in the dream space. We see Layla actually being a little bit duplicitous in this. Interestingly enough, she's eating a marshmallow, which we see earlier. Which now I wonder if that's supposed to be a callback to the Sea of Reeds, because marshmallows are from a marshmallow plant, which is a plant that grows in the marsh.
That's interesting.
From. Now, when I first started eating that, I thought it was Turkish delight, which I thought was going to be a callback to Zemo, but no, it was not Turkish delight. It was marshmallows.
In the jar, right? Okay,
yeah, the jar that she just, which is weird that people just keep marshmallows. I don't know if that's a thing that people do, but it's weird in this moment. But she's eating the marshmallow and she says, "This time I promise I'll share it with you," when she goes to take it, which makes you wonder if maybe in their adventures it has been more one-sided than we think, that Layla has been maybe manipulating things a bit more in her favor, maybe taking advantage of Mark's guilt and Mark's inability to be one person in a given moment. That she has been able to steal things and then put herself in a good position, but at the same time also leave Mark hanging. It's an interesting question. We don't get an answer in this episode. But we do get basically Mark trying to make a break for it from a hero, finding a sarcophagus where he finds Steven, and Steven and Mark get to meet on this astral plane, as it seems.
That's a great moment.
And we see them walking down the hall, and it looks like an old-timey ship where like everything's rocking and the lamps are swaying. It reminded me of like if you're ever on a Pirates of the Caribbean ride, you see that with like, and we see a third sarcophagus they choose not to open.
Yeah, like it's so suspicious to me that neither of them was curious enough to want to see what was inside of it. It's almost like they both knew, yeah, you know what? Yeah, no, I'm gonna pretend I don't see that. Yeah, okay, let's pretend we don't see that.
Well, that is what the other personalities always do. That is the raison d'etre.
Yeah.
They say, we ignore all that other stuff.
Right. No. Yep. Yeah.
And they get to the final door, and there is Toret. Hi.
Now I get that Steven screams like a girl, But
Uh,
why is Mark weirded out by this? Hasn't he seen like some
he's
crazy
seen.
creatures? Why is he like,
Well,
ooh,
he is seen. They've both seen Kanchu,
that
but they've never
right,
seen. Yeah, but he's
right.
just a bone guy, and I guess maybe the argument is sort of like what you were saying about reaching into Alexander's desiccated corpse.
Right, right.
I mean, that's dry. That's just, it's empty. It's nothing but bone and ash.
Yeah.
It's not a living hippopotamus.
Right. I mean, like, I feel like it was a silly sight gag to stray from the character so hard, like to make them go woo, 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 woo. All of a sudden we're doing like slapstick. I mean, I guess parts of it always
Well,
were
I mean,
slapstick, but
I guess my point would be, and I guess what their point would be, is that this is all ridiculous, Mozz.
fair enough.
And it's a giant hippopotamus lady that just said hi. And honestly, here's my thing. The second I saw her, I immediately thought of Hippopotamus from the Wuzzles.
Oh,
I even think the actress sounds a bit like the actress who did the voice of Hippopotamus from the
what was that
Wuzzles.
Pixar movie about the zoo? And Alex the zebra was in it, and there was a lion and
Oh,
there
that
was
was Zootopia.
a Zootopia. Yeah, remember the hippo lady in that?
Oh, no. That wasn't Pixar. That was, you're talking about Madagascar.
Madagascar. That's right. The hippo lady in
Yes,
that.
yes.
That's who I saw immediately.
That was the other one. I think that was it's the one, DreamWorks. Yes. Madagascar was DreamWorks. Yes. And
but to me, like, okay, he's a
popular.
big Egyptology nerd, right? His first thought would have been, "Whoa, there you go," instead of I don't know. It just
Well,
seemed
I
like,
mean, I think it's just shocking because, and it's funny. Well, and to be fair, he kind of said that earlier in this episode where he says, if they just came alive right now and asked me a riddle, as he's looking at the Sphinx, he said, I would mess myself. Not what he said, but I would mess myself,
right.
but it would be the greatest moment of my life. And here it's like, oh, he's messing himself.
Fair enough.
He's like, you're a freaking Egyptian goddess.
Right. But what?
And to be fair, here's the thing, Kanchu, you can imagine either being a figment of his imagination, or B, a lot of talk and no action.
They're also sort of melding, so maybe that's like pieces of them becoming more like each other. Like, if they're so close in proximity, it's hard to be separate. You're the same person, right? So you get lazy and just react in both personalities in your head in the same way. There's one reaction that comes inside, and both of them express it the same way. You get too lazy to be able to parse them.
I think that's a lot of it. Any final thoughts?
It's interesting. Like in certain moments there, I felt like which guy was talking, because sometimes the accent is there, sometimes the accent, and I felt like there were moments where Stephen talked without an accent, or maybe said a word or two that didn't sound like it was a British accent. I thought maybe I misheard, but now I'm thinking maybe it was intentional.
Yeah, well, you know what? I think both statements can be right. Where poor old Oscar Isaac is running through a lot of different iterations of his characters and comes round to a circle, but at the same time is also bound by it, and then and the idea that they are merging, because that would be a very interesting end game for this, to start with this DID that eventually comes out as a merged personality, that we basically in a reversal of what we've seen in the comics, rather than being secret identities that eventually took on their own life that separated him. This is a person with these real disparate personalities, but now this is them fusing back together.
So who bears the burden of responsibility for those previous actions?
They all do. It's just one person at the end of the day,
right?
That's
so he can't get around, like Layla can't forgive Stephen. There is no Stephen, right? Like,
Well, but if Stephen did nothing wrong, there's nothing to
but
forget.
like that's what I'm saying. But did he or didn't? Like, you know,
Well,
if
I
they
mean, that's the
merge,
question.
is there a place for to
That's
be
the
able to say he didn't do
question
anything?
we're going to answer in the couple of episodes. And again, we're assuming
enough.
Layla did nothing.
That's just so fascinating to me. I'm like, where does the blame all of a sudden go? What does it matter? But like, isn't that a real thing? I don't know. Like,
it's all a conundrum, Mozz.
oh, man,
But
that's a good bunch of questions.
let's end this episode, Mozz. Give me your final thoughts.
Yeah, I guess that would be it. Where does the blame lie? What does it mean when you have two disparate personalities that like, oh, one is easily forgivable? Layla is able to forgive Stephen. She's perfectly fine. Stephen did no wrong in her eyes. Oh, Stephen's like this fresh meat, but it's still Mark and pretending to be Stephen. But even then she's willing to do it. But now it's not a matter of who the identity really is, but it's how the world is willing to see you. Right, that's what decides this situation that we're talking about. So then once they merge, right, they're just one. How does she deal with that? Is she able to let that go or not? What does that mean? You know, that's I don't know the answers. I don't know that we can find it, but that's what an interesting question.
Exactly.
So that's my final thought on this episode.
Yeah, and what I would say, can you pause for 1 second?
Yeah.
Thank you. And you know what? Say my final thoughts on all of this are just that I am intrigued by where Mark is going. I hope that we're going to get something really interesting at the end, because I know we've got about 2 episodes left. There's a lot to resolve. I'm sure there'll be a big fight, probably a battle of various gods. I'm wondering if we're going to see Ammit as a big crocodile lady god.
And crocodile versus hippo? Oh man, that's a fight people have been wanting to see for ages, I'm sure.
Well, actually no, because it'd probably be like weird bird bone guy. Yeah. Kanchu versus that's the thing. It's like, because Ammit is, I mean, Tuara is just like, dude, I just work here.
Yeah, she's
the goddess of women and children. It's like, dude, I'm not fighting you. Although maybe she is gonna fight her, and then it's like, you know what?
Hippos are dangerous. Hippos are dangerous.
Hippos are like, you know, I am a tank build.
Yeah.
You know, I actually have tusks.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, yes, they do have a bite force that is really hard.
They kill more people in Africa than a lot of animals.
Well, yeah, because, you know, people don't respect the dangerousness of a giant machine. Actually, elephant,
it looks like a hairless Care Bear.
What it is that, you know, a lot of big herbivores kill a lot of people because people just think they're herbivores. And they, just because they're not going to get eaten doesn't mean they're not going to get stepped on.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, most damage that the animal kingdom gives to human isn't bite damage. It's actually just stepping on damage. You know, it's like, you know, it's, you know, you step behind a cow or a horse and that cow decides to just kick you. That was pretty much your last move, man.
Yeah.
You know, you have to respect the giant animal that you were standing next to.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mozz. So I want to reach out to all of our friends out there in the podcast world. Let them know that they can reach out to us here on the Capes and Lunatics Network and everyone on the Capes and Lunatics Network at CapesandLunatics@gmail.com. That's CapesandLunatics@gmail.com. And they can also call us and leave a voicemail to be played on the air if they so choose at 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. And of course, go to Linktree, linktr.ee/CapesandLunatics, all spelled out. There they can find all of our merch, including our amazing aluminum mugs that keep your cold drinks cold and your hot drinks hot all night long. And of course, amazing t-shirts. And you can also sign up for our Patreon, where if you subscribe for $1 a month, we appreciate it. If you subscribe for $5 a month, you get full video, including the amazing movie brackets that we're doing. This week, we are recording 90s Captain America, Matt Salinger Cap versus Fat Four-Stick, which will be the worst Marvel movie ever made.
Oh.
We're going to decide that this weekend. You can watch that live for a mere $5 a month. I'm inclined to agree with you, Tristan.
What did he say?
He's voting for Fan Four Stick.
I mean, I haven't seen that old Captain America movie, so I can't really say, but I enjoyed Fan Four Stick a little bit, you know? I mean, like, I would watch it again.
It has its enjoyable moments. I've tried to defend it, but it has so much of a we ran out of money problem at the end. And that's the thing. It's like the run out of money problem. The director just decided to stop showing up to set problem. These are things you can't overcome.
Right. I mean, no doubt it was a bad movie, but it was a bad movie that I would enjoy watching again. Yeah. They didn't do it much right, but they did a couple things right, and it was an enjoyable ride the whole way. I don't know what it was, whether it was how the characters related to each other, the relationships and the chemistries were right. If everything else was wrong, but just when they were talking to each other, you were entertained or engaged somehow. Yeah. But something about it just was more enjoyable relative to the amount of hate that it gets. It always surprises.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, you know, I think that's true of most any film. Any film is going to get more hate than it gets love, just because people like to hate. Yeah. You know, I think that is the one rule the internet has taught us, is that no matter how good or bad anything is, more people will hate it than love it. People say, "Oh, you eat filet mignon? That's a disgusting piece of meat." It's like,
there's no fat in it at all.
Well, exactly. And it's just this idea that, you know, like, who ever really thought that deeply about a filet? It's like, it's a piece of meat. I don't know. I liked it. It made my stomach not be hungry, you know, and people will fight it. You know, it's like, you know, oh, you cooked that too rare. Oh, you cooked that too well. It's like, I don't know, man. I just ate a piece of meat. I was hungry. And, you know, and not to make it all about steaks, you know, you'll get people, oh, that's not how you cook eggplant, you know.
Oh, that's not how I cook. That's not how you cook eggplant. Sure, but that's definitely how I cook eggplant.
Well, exactly. But
you this is sit back down and leave me alone. I would, you know.
Well, yeah, but if everyone would leave us alone, what would happen to the field of criticism? Mozz, where would any of us?
Hopefully, you only ask the morons to leave you alone.
Yes, well, that's the idea. But anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's called a toaster oven. It's been in existence for the last 50 years, 60 years.
They even come with air fryers in them now.
Oh, yeah. Cooking technology is advanced. Countertop cooking technology, it is amazing in this day and age. Yeah, we can cook all kinds of things. That's the thing, Tristan, is technology has advanced. It is far, far beyond what we once dreamed. And now you can have a whole freaking griddle in your apartment if you really want to. All electric. And it like sucks the fat in, and so it doesn't trigger your smoke alarm, they say in the commercials. I don't know. I've never had a toasted steak, but we will talk about that at another time. Right now, Mozz, how can people reach out to you specifically if they want to talk to you about Moon Knight or anything else?
They can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way our mothers and fathers once did, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. All one word. And of course, follow me on the Twitter as I live tweet things like Naomi, which I did do this week. Well, now Now that Musk owns it, who knows what happens to that platform next? But I don't know. I'll be there. It might get better. You never know. Um, it can't get worse. That's what I always say. You can find me at Charlie Hesser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle. For what?
For quality. Bing.
Oh, thank you, Mozz. All right, me hearties. You have come to the end of another tumultuous voyage on our good ship. Please disembark and return to your normal lives. But come back next week as we once again sail full stream ahead.
Yeah.
Arr. All right. Oh, that ran a little long, but that's okay.
Yeah. So just to that point, I saw this funny meme that made me laugh. Check this out. It said if Elon Musk had bad intentions, he could have simply purchased Congress for a fraction of the price.
But honestly, probably
the $44 billion. Like Jesus Christ.
Well, this is the thing. This is the thing about that 40, and this is this like weird. It's one of these weird like math things.
Okay.
Where it's not that he took like $44 billion of his own money.
No, but regardless, he was able to mobilize $44 million.
Well, yeah. Well, he was able to mobilize $44 billion of other people's money.
Of money in general, just
Well, no, you have to understand and this was the whole thing. He had to show because they took the deal because he could show his financing,
right?
And he could show the financing is basically he effectively, I'm going to suggest, put up Tesla and SpaceX to buy Twitter.
Wow.
Which actually tells me that these people signed off on it because they said, he's not going to make a profit on this. We're going to get SpaceX and Tesla out of this deal. And F Elon Musk. So my big prediction is that like 10 years from now, Elon Musk is not where he is now.
That's the fantasy for people, right?
Well, I mean, honestly, unless he somehow makes Twitter turn a profit. Because he's promising to fix Twitter to turn a profit.
Right, so Twitter wasn't turning a profit before. I sold for $44 billion.
No, Twitter doesn't turn a profit. Twitter's like
then
Netflix.
Why does he need to?
Well,
so, I guess.
So here's the idea: is like when Twitter went public. And I don't know if Twitter turns a profit, but it doesn't turn a profit. It doesn't turn $44 billion a profit.
Right. All that money goes to the executives or whatever, I guess,
Well, it's salaries. Basically, it costs a lot of money to build the Twitter.
Right.
And to police the Twitter. And I guess the argument is his plan is just to stop policing Twitter.
No, it's not to stop policing. It's to stop policing so aggressively.
Well, the problem is that opens you up because even though they want to say they're not, they are a publisher, which opens them up to libel and fraud claims and massive liability, which is why, according to rumor, the chief counsel for Twitter started crying when Elon Musk took over because he couldn't make Musk understand
but it's
that they're still bound by laws.
Yeah, but and
the EU has already said, Twitter, you really do understand that you still live within countries. And if you try to do what you're saying you want to do, we are going to turn you off.
Yeah, Neil Young's back on Spotify too, so.
Well, Spotify's a whole other thing.
No, but the point is you go where the money is. You have all this bluster, you talk what you want, but the world moves on as it will,
Yeah, I have found historically the guy who prints the money is usually the government, and you don't want to piss them off.
Not
So
only he's
that's
pissing off the government, he's got contracts going with NASA and blah blah blah. He's good with the government.
yeah. Well, and to be fair, and this is again this idea that Elon Musk is poor. He
Who's
has
saying
no
that?
money. No, he is poor. He
Oh,
is
okay, yeah.
broke
But what?
because someone else owns the chit.
Yeah,
So
but
someone who has bought
well, no, but
SpaceX
at
has a
no
deal with
point are we
NASA.
arguing about his
Elon
wealth.
Musk
That's an
doesn't have a deal.
irrelevant
What I'm
argument.
saying is, and this is the problem with when you get to this CEO model of business, is that when you say Elon Musk is the CEO, Elon Musk is the genius. It's like, no, Elon Musk is the guy who is making the deal, maybe, but anyone could make the deal. And at a
Yeah,
certain
that's
point,
why somebody's been able to mobilize $44 million to buy such a integral part of how society works these days.
it's not
Like,
integral. Very few people are
oh,
actually.
and that's why everybody's losing their minds.
Well, no, everyone's losing their minds because of theater.
Right.
But what is actually, here's my point. Elon Musk put a lot of assets in play to make this purchase. The reason he was able to do that is because the assets he put in play were worth more than Twitter. Meaning that the people that backed his buy to buy Twitter are doing it with the understanding that either Twitter will make money.
Yeah. So again, it's a
Or
matter
they'll
of
get the
perspective, like
assets.
we were talking about earlier. He gave his life to try to save her father, right? It's a matter of perspective. So here, this guy put like Tesla
Yes.
and SpaceX, the things that are like such a part of who he is as an identity, on the line to buy Twitter, something that isn't going to make a profit. So there's perspectives and ways to look at it.
Yeah, he's not the hero here, but that's okay. Or you can disagree. You can disagree.
Nobody's saying he has to be the hero, but I think people say that he should be the hero just so they can tear him down. I just think it's an impressive feat of mobilizing humanity to do certain things that he's done. And I'm fascinated by the whether it's evil or whether it's good, just the fact that he can mobilize humanity to accomplish things like this is amazing. We might be able to
it's
get
not
to
mobilizing
Mars,
humanity. Right? It's mobilizing capital.
Right. That's the measure
That's a
by
very
how things are
different thing.
moved. Right. That's the measure of how powerful we are as a society, how we can make things. Right. The reason we can't like build these giant contraptions around the stars, the material is in the earth, but like who is going to motivate somebody to go dig in the earth, to dig out the metal, to create the thing that would move society forward? Right. Being able to mobilize humanity.
I guess the counter argument is less. The question is, so as the great P.T. Barnum once said, a fool and his money were lucky to get together in the first place. And the question here is, who is the fool? And is Elon Musk the fool who was lucky to have gotten that money in the first place? And is every other person
was lucky? They've been rich people before. Right.
There will be rich people again.
Right. Do you think anyone's gonna?
And he was rich when he started, and he's still rich now.
But does that take away from like?
It's not that.
If you're born with a gift, right? Should you not go use it, or should you go say, "Oh, I shouldn't use my gift because everybody else doesn't have my gift. I shouldn't go, be a superstar or track athlete. Oh, everybody else doesn't have this gift." That's a silly notion to say that if you're born with millions, that you should be, like.
No, it's not even that. It's just understanding that. My point isn't that Elon Musk hasn't made well with his profits. But there gets to be a point where you start to drink your own Kool-Aid. And the real question with Elon Musk is,
isn't that the only way to accomplish big things?
Well, I mean, to be fair, that's effectively what we're watching in real time with Trump right now. Has Trump drunk so much? And also, as a fun non-billionaire aspect, Putin, has he drunk so much of his own Kool-Aid that he doesn't know that what he's doing is breaking down and is actually leading to his own demise and destruction? At a certain point, I love to drink. At a certain point, you start to drink yourself to death. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter how good you feel while you're doing it, you're still killing yourself.
Right. But do you think that's what he's doing, or do you wish that's what he's doing?
I don't wish anything. I actually wish for a better world for everyone. And I wish for a world with a lot less conflict, a lot of people just chilling out. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
Probably not.
I think actually things are going to get a lot more chaotic before they get less chaotic. And
Yeah.
I don't care who you are, on what side of the argument you are on. I am in favor of systems of organization that lead to less people dying horribly in the streets. That's my goal. It's a very workable goal, I think.
Yeah, but I think
And
if
it's
we,
what I
if we
work
keep our
towards every
attention
day.
on just that, you know, and not gossiping and talking about,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
oh, morality and this and that, you shouldn't be feeling this way, you shouldn't be, you know, that's
Oh.
where it gets a lot. You know, if we just keep it to like, hey, let's keep people safe so we don't kill each other, that's all well and good.
Yeah,
But-
yeah.
but
I mean, that's my only goal. And as far as Elon Musk, no, my biggest thing is I think Elon Musk got took. I think Elon Musk got played.
It's a possibility. Like he had to
that
take
he just does
moments.
not really have any idea of what he just did, and that basically
That's how you do new things.
well, yeah, well, no, you do new things by doing something new. I think in this situation, he's actually done something very foolish.
No one's ever done something like this. I've never seen anything like this before.
Oh no, people.
Or maybe you're right. Like people been like he bought the Washington Post, right? That's sort of like a similar thing.
The main difference between people all he did was he raised funds to make a purchase.
Right. He did the same thing.
And people
with Tesla.
did it all the time. I mean,
he
back in the 80s.
commercialized and created this whole market of electric cars. He created usable rockets, and he's expanded our capabilities to be able to reach to the stars. Probably exponentially, and especially considering the time frame in which that happened.
I mean,
and then he goes out and buys Twitter, right? This is like if somebody wrote this as a book, you would never believe this happened.
And to put it to you real simple, the buying Twitter is the weird part.
It's completely
because
weird.
it seems like a vanity purchase, and it seems like an idea that. And here's what I'll tell you. He may be real good at the industrial aspects of things, because let's face it, Tesla, that's industry. SpaceX, that's industry. It's like, no, we can actually build that cheaper and easier than what you're doing right now. Let us do that. This is an ephemeral thing that I don't know Musk really understands.
I think perhaps more than people give him credit for, because like with Tesla, it's an AI company, right? I think if he has access to the algorithms behind Twitter, and with his ideas on what is possible with AI, you know, I think this is a very valuable purchase for reasons that we can't even begin to compute.
Oh, and what I will say is on that notion that yes,
he's got access to everybody's decision-making patterns and algorithms
So there's a great episode of The Simpsons when Homer Simpson gets elected the head of the union. And they say, hey, what does this job pay? And they say, nothing. And he goes, oh. He says, unless you're crooked. He goes, woohoo! And that's effectively where you're at with, it's like, oh, well, if you're crooked, owning Twitter could be really profitable. But the lawyers are like, you can only do that so long, and then it's all going to come back and eat us.
Think about this with the permutational calculative capabilities applied to how people think. It means everything for any business he ever touches again.
Well, except the FCC is actually telling them, shut up. You can't use it. And the fact of the matter is, laws are laws, man. You think they aren't laws because you're rich, and
right. That's my point. To him, laws are just a menu. Right. This is how much this costs. This is how much this costs. Okay, put your order in, sir. Would you like the pain and suffering of human souls to come with that? Okay, yes, sir. We'll bring it right along. It'd be a pain and suffering froth.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't. I mean, I guess that's me as a cockeyed optimist. I don't think the law works like that. I think at the end of the day, the law is still paramount. And no matter, and here's what I'll tell you, even if the law is corrupt, then making yourself a big target certainly
I'm
doesn't
not saying
serve
I'm not
you.
saying it's corrupt. I'm just saying that's the natural order of things.
Well, except, like I said, it's an open question. We're going to see how it plays out. I actually just think Musk is going to lose a lot of money, and it's actually going to come back and bite him in the butt. And the same way that AOL
Certainly a
buying Time
possibility.
Warner.
But you think about like the things he's putting together, right? 35,000 satellites
Yeah.
in the sky. Starlink is going to be up there, being able to have an internet infrastructure.
Yeah,
that
except
is
you know what?
relatively free from the
Musk has a history of big talk that falls apart.
Right, but there's also SpaceX that didn't, right? You're not going to have failures on the way to massive successes.
I mean, here's what I'll tell you: is SpaceX, and this is the truth. He has not gone up on a tourist SpaceX rocket,
right?
And the fact of the matter is, SpaceX is about physical, achievable things, and it's a bit like Howard Hughes, where he did a lot of great things, made billions of dollars, but at the same time, because of his own difficulties, he wound up getting involved in a lot of vanity things that eventually led to his undoing. And this is sort of where we get to
entirely
this.
possible, but are we not?
And
right
who knows yet? We don't know yet if Elon Musk is the Howard Hughes. Here's what I'll say: the only billionaire I've ever respected is Andrew Carnegie, because he got out. He made his billions. He gave a lot to charity, and then he retired. He said, "I'm out. I'm not gonna have legacies and all this kind of stuff. I'm out. I'm done." Because a rich man's got to get into heaven somehow.
See, now the concept of charity, there's a way of looking at it that you're just like feeding the people that can't help themselves. Is that helping humanity move forward, or is that just putting a band-aid on something, right? But if you get it in your head that you're going to have a goal, that you're going to make your species a star-faring species, right? I mean, is that not in a way charitable? Huh?
He's done nothing towards that. There's nothing
maybe getting us to Mars.
I mean, first off, he's not going to Mars anytime soon. He can say he wants to go to Mars.
Not him personally, but allow us a much broader capability of being able to start exploring the idea of visiting other places. And who knows what that could possibly lead to.
We've been talking about that since the 1960s.
Exactly. And look how much further we've come in the last 10 years than we have since the 1960s.
We have gone no further than we had when Skylab was up.
Oh, I think that's short-sighted. I don't think.
No, I'm going to say. Here's what I'll tell you: the International Space Station, it's bigger, but it's really just Skylab with more.
I'm not talking about the space. I'm talking about like the capabilities that we have, especially considering that we can't launch from Russia, or that we have issues with Russia. Right now, we have a way of launching our own satellites or launching whatever defense systems we can deploy. It's not a small thing.
We always could, and still the only person going to Mars is NASA. So
yeah, and they're probably going to use his rockets to get there, right? So NASA has been buoyed and made better by no. Well,
private-public partnerships has always been a big deal.
Yeah, so I mean,
NASA doesn't have an assembly plant. Boeing does. It's
even if he ends up being like a big old evil genius, it'd be great to be part of that story too. Like, God, like the greatest villain of all time. He said, like, think about it. Like, he's gonna have satellites creating his own infrastructure for the internet. He's gonna have brain chips that give people connected access to the internet. He's gonna control the town square on the internet. I mean, like, you really think about it. This dude is going for the stars, right? It's the greatest villain that ever lived.
Well, yeah. Although, I guess
I'm for it.
I mean, here, look. I am the first one to apply for a job at LexCorp once
that's
it
what
comes
I'm
out.
saying. This is what we
I mean,
have.
no, I'm totally cool. Here's what I'm saying. I'm not convinced Elon Musk is Lex Luthor.
I mean, this is the closest we've ever had to it right now, and I think we should be celebrating the opportunity rather than saying, "Man, you'll never do it."
Here's what I'll say. I would say John D. Rockefeller was a lot closer to Lex Luthor.
Who?
John D. Rockefeller.
Oh, okay.
The guy who made it so that laws had to be put in So you couldn't.
Yeah, but you're talking about laws. I'm talking about visiting Mars. I'm talking about saving the species.
Well, first off, I don't know that visiting Mars is going to save the species.
No, but being an interplanetary species perhaps could.
Well, I think we should figure out how to not destroy this planet first.
Oh no, without a doubt. But like this argument that because
really,
we do one thing, we should not do the other is absolutely silly.
So let me put it to you this way: you know, the entire modern version of Tony Stark is clean energy and arc reactors and stuff like that. And if that's what Musk was investing in, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that could be better. You've heard of
the Tesla battery, right? Like he's investing, but this idea that because we have to focus here, we should not focus there is just such
no. It's not that we shouldn't focus there. Argument. It's that we should understand that going to Mars, a planet that has a worse ecological situation than Earth, isn't going to solve our ecological situation.
No, but it's what it represents. Perhaps that's the first step to finding someplace that can be colonized. But if we don't make that first step, we're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
We have to make the first step at some point. That's like saying, oh, I'll do this when I'm ready. No, I'm not going to do this time.
I understand your point. I'm just saying.
Engage in the process.
We've been, and again, like I said, all I'm saying is it's a good idea. The central question is Musk the guy that's going to do it?
And I think it really comes down to people are either hoping he wins or hoping he fails. And that decides where you fall on the argument.
I don't hope anything. I honestly, I hope whatever happens, it's best for everyone. Because honestly, if he wins or loses, doesn't matter to me so long as the world is made better. And my honest opinion is, he hasn't done a lot to make me feel confident about him becoming more powerful being a good thing. But then again, I could say that about every single human being on the planet. I don't think anyone getting more powerful is a good thing.
Right. But somebody's got to.
I mean, arguably, no. Arguably, somebody doesn't have to. We could all sort of find a way to work together.
I think this is that moment where Dr. Malcolm says your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. Like, yeah, I'm of that camp. Like, let's fucking go, man. Let's see what we can do.
If the worst that Elon Musk does is release dinosaurs running around the earth, I'll call that an absolute win.
Yeah,
I will call that an absolute win.
We shot for the moon, didn't get there, but goddamn, we fucking shot for it. And the next 1,000 years or 500 years, somebody else gets this idea, we'll be a little bit fucking closer.
Yeah, and I hope so. Yeah. When we send this to Phil, just let him know that we stopped like a half hour
like an hour after that. Yeah.
Yeah. We end this and then we talk for another half hour about bullshit, and that's fine. And honestly, Mozz, I love talking to you.
Yeah, man.
I could do this all night. We could do this as not a podcast. You just want to call me.
But I think that was interesting and relevant conversation. I think people would find value.
I agree too. And honestly, I here's what I'll say. I hope Musk finds a way to make Twitter a wonderful place for everyone to be and talk and to be respectful to other people, because I do think that is always the core is to be respectful of other people's ideas.
It's got to be a balanced thing. You can't be so afraid of things that you don't want to.
No, all you have to do is look. I went to Catholic school. I had priests who could damn you to hell, and you were still respectful to the priests, even when you disagreed with them. And you can say, "Well, Father, but I disagree with your philosophy on this."
Life isn't that ideal, right? And if we keep pretending, I understand, but if we keep pretending that life is that, then when life gets real, we're not prepared, right? I think it's I guess it's the question, we can create this environment.
Is life determined by the least of us or the best of us? What is our ideal? Should we build towards those of us who will tear down reality, or should we build towards those who will build up reality?
Yeah, but who do you think is tearing down reality? Who do you think is building it up?
Honestly, I think my honest opinion is I think the majority of people are building up reality in the best way they can by taking care of family and friends and working towards a better world for them. And a lot of other people, generally people without a lot of family and friends, or who see them. Here's what I'll say: the people who see themselves as the grand movers and shakers of the people who see themselves as Atlas
Mhm.
with the ability to shrug. I think those are the people who are destroying the world. I honestly think that people who aren't doing that, who are just trying to get by, are the
Are
people
not
who make up the world.
contributing to society and just like, you know what I mean?
Well,
Not
no, they are
moving
contributing to
anybody
society.
forward.
They are keeping society operational. And that goes on every level. Because there's a scientist who is figuring out things,
Mhm.
who is doing amazing work because they want to make a better world for them and their kids.
Right.
But the person who is cutting grand swaths across the Amazon because
Sure. Yeah, no, for sure.
you know that's the thing, is like
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
a person
yeah.
who says, I shall be the path maker. I usually find
Right,
that is the
in
last
the
person
end,
you
like
want to follow.
I think we have to move forward, right? And
Well, yeah.
and there's a certain amount of bureaucracy that is necessary to mobilize a species of 8 billion individual points of choice to move in a certain direction. Otherwise, it's just meandering nonsense, right?
Well, of
So
course.
that has to be marshaled somehow. And the best way we found it is to put a monetary value to the effort you put forth.
I would argue the exact opposite. The best method we have found is actually to have a social construct that says we're in this together to move forward to the stars.
Yeah, but
And that's what
how do
got
you
us to the
motivate
moon.
people to do it? That togetherness doesn't motivate people to do anything.
It worked in the 60s. It got us to the moon. I mean, let's be
No.
honest here. The
War,
only
the threat
achievement
of
we've
war
gotten is
and the threat of Russia got us to the moon. Hippies had nothing to do with that.
Well, no. Hippies have nothing to do with collectivism. That's patriotism. Patriotism
Right,
is
and was a reaction to a fear of a foreign power. No.
Well, I mean, arguably a foreign power, but also just the betterment of mankind. The idea that, democracy will out.
Do you really think the government at that time put 8 billion in the 60s, put $8 billion into getting us to the moon, a vanity project, simply because it would better humanity? Or do you think they were afraid that Russia would appear superior and then all of a sudden, like those sorts of things are what moves
here's what I'll say is two things can be true. That basically, here's what I'll tell you.
Which do you think weighed heavier on the minds of Congress voting for $8 billion?
Here's the actual honest statement. Here's the actual honest statement. Kennedy made a ridiculous moonshot, which is why we call it a moonshot idea, that Nixon then had to fulfill, knowing that Kennedy would get the credit for it.
That's rough.
Oh, of course it's right. Honestly, I'm sure it's like 90% of all of Nixon's like mental health issues. It's just like, this guy made all these promises about America that then everyone else had to deal with, but they couldn't not do it because they said, well, we'd be on the moon now if Kennedy were only here. That's the advantage of getting shot in your 30s, or 40s or whatever. It makes you into a position where you can do no wrong.
Right. Or dying when you're 26.
Yeah, exactly. Or 30, or whatever the number is that all the rock stars die at, it's fair enough.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that even at the end of it, we still have to move forward.
Right.
And for Nixon and for Johnson, it's like Johnson had to deal with Vietnam, and then Nixon had to deal with Vietnam, and they both had to deal with this whole freaking space program. And honestly, beating the Russians was not that hard because the Russians were even worse at it than we were. Because
we weren't sure of that then, right?
No, we weren't sure of that. But the fact of the matter is, and this is where the military-industrial complex comes into it, is we were probably a little bit more sure of it than we let on. Because our spies told us,
I could buy that.
They're not doing that good.
Yeah.
But then, but it's that whole, what was the one thing that George W. Bush said, or no, Dick Cheney said, there's even a 1% chance that we're wrong. It's like, I don't know, maybe that's not really good math. I don't think you passed math. I think if there's 1% chance that we're wrong, we shouldn't treat it as an absolute certainty, because there's a good chance we're 1% wrong about everything. You know?
Yeah.
There's a 1% chance that, the Moonies were right. And, we all should be shaving our heads right now. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just this idea.
I just think it's a crazy world, and we're living in a crazy time where like it almost feels like we've crossed into a different age, like a different epoch or something, and we're about to like get into some brand new territory, and that's exciting.
You know what I'll say? Here's my honest opinion. We are actually the exact same apes we were 200, 300, 400 years ago.
But it's our cultural operating system that is...
No. Our cultural operating system is exactly the same.
Huh.
What has changed is our ability to get information. And invariably, as we get more information, we as a species tend to make better choices. And it starts with Gutenberg. No. I mean, en masse. And like one of our biggest problems that we hit right now is actually that we have this optimal information source, and yet there's still parts of the world that we can't get it to. And that connectivity.
Also though, because there's so much of it, it's hard to pin down the truth. It's hard to pin down the reality of anything, because perspective becomes such a pliable thing,
I think it's easier than you think. Because effectively there's two kinds of people in this world. There are people that know what they know and like what they know, and at which point they only are interested in whatever is going to reiterate that thought, and that's fine. That's fine so long as you don't use that reiteration to cause harm to others. Which is why I think it's the most interesting aspect of human evolution, that throughout millions of years there is a lot of do unto others as you would have them do unto you memes in the human society across major societal structures. And invariably, what I will say is, like, invariably it does deal with large societal structures. Once you're in a society that's large enough to have diversity of population, you eventually create a golden rule to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Whether you're in China or the Middle East, or even in Europe, had many similar ideas. And I'm sure the Native Americans have a similar...
I've read theories that idea stems much further back from when we became hunter-gatherers and had an area of territory to protect, necessitating the birth of a psychological concept of the in-group versus out-group, and that in order to protect this territory, it would be beneficial to you to be nicer to the people in your group, because if everybody's healthy, we can protect. And that's the birth of that moral impetus.
And regardless of the birth of it, it exists. So if it is an intrinsic nature of humanity,
no. Well, of humanity, sure, and the way that we evolve, but there's no. It's simply a byproduct, just like eyes developed because there was electromagnetic energy, and when a particular group of cells could react to that in a certain way, they were able to find food easier. You know what I mean? And eyes developed. Right. In the same way, I think that's just a byproduct of evolution, of cultural evolution, this morality kind of,
Well, yes, but I guess what one could easily say is, I think we're better off with eyes. We're better off with morals.
For sure.
That if these things evolve to help us survive, maybe we shouldn't suddenly decide, I don't think we need eyes anymore, and it would be better if we plucked them all out.
Right, but it's also foolhardy to say, hey, no, don't pay attention to what you're hearing. You see that? Just pay attention to that. No. The eyes can't see this.
But the
eyes can't see that.
Well, but the idea is that you have both ears and eyes.
Right. But you gotta admit that you have ears and eyes and taste and thoughts and feelings and sense.
Exactly.
Not just say that we have eyes. Right. So
well, exactly. Well, the idea is that all these things evolving in construct, including human morality. And if you want to say that is to keep us alive, great. I'd like to be alive. And if you're going to say that being a moral person probably helps all of us to survive better.
Sure.
I think that is a definite win. That is a definite thing.
But to understand that that's just one piece of it, right?
Well,
Morality helps us in one area of things, but as far as when you get the concepts of how do we move society forward, right? Like, do those things change?
Well, I don't know, but I do know. Here's what I'll tell you. We may have to sacrifice people to move forward, but I would not want to be one of the people sacrificed.
No, of course not.
And so when we get into that, and that is where individualism comes in. And once we start pushing this idea that we don't have to care about the people ground beneath the wheels of progress.
Oh, no. I'm not saying that.
Then we get into this problem.
I'm not saying it has to be an extreme, but that's just my point. It can't be an extreme in any direction.
Well, no,
right? You can't flaunt progress at the behest of a couple of bodies, in the same way that you can't go full tilt and say we got to kill everybody to take what we can. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And to circle it back around, this is why I do not trust, grand visionary leaders.
Right, but isn't that what we've had? Isn't that the reason that we're in this position? Oh, you can't say this, or we can't do this. There's no room for this kind of conversation. And I think
no. I'm saying that it's so. Here's the thing: you and I, we can go back and forth.
No. What I'm saying is, what if it's a reaction to that kind of an action, right?
Well, yeah, but the thing is that when Elon Musk does something, it is something that exists on a plane that is alien to both you and I. Neither one of us are ever going to be, presumably, you always hope, but I know for myself, I probably will never be a Musk-like figure on the world stage. And as a result, I know historically, people in that position, people in that PowerPoint will often
every single time
cause more harm than good.
No, every single time, not more often, every single time.
Yeah.
Every single time.
And so from my perspective, I'm like, it's not what I would want for humanity. I hope we move forward. No, but I think that we actually would move forward regardless.
Right.
I actually think we would move forward faster if I
think we would move forward much slower.
Well, here's the thing. If people, here's what I'll tell you. If people cared about them and theirs and didn't worry about everybody else's, in the sense that whether or not, and this is the crux of the entire "Don't Say Gay" movement, and just this idea, like, why do you care? Like, what possible effect does this have on your life, whether or not someone is gay, unless someone in your family is gay, in which case I would hope you'd want them to be happy, and the thing is, but this is where that manipulation comes in from people. And when people start to manipulate other people to say, don't think about this, don't do this, it's invariably because of bad things. Now, when you, and again, it's about equivalency, because when you say, hey, this person rapes people, maybe we shouldn't let them do things in our public society. Okay, maybe that's a fair concept. When someone says, hey, this guy talks about it, well, we're all going to make our own decisions on that. And a lot of people are going to say, you know what? I don't want to listen to that show. I'm not going to buy your album anymore.
Yeah, but to say that show has no place to be there is a scary thought. Well, it's not to say
that show has no place to be there. It's that the show isn't profitable anymore.
No. But that's not it, though.
Well, it actually is that, because there's not anyone that you can point to.
No. If it wasn't profitable, why would they need to ban it? Right? If there wasn't a market for it, why would they need to
what is being banned? What's being banned? I mean, when it's a popular decision that, person X, whoever it is, does bad things. So as an example, what's his name? The guy from New York who did the funny movies, blanking on his name right now.
Woody Allen.
Now, Woody Allen's doing okay for himself, but yeah, he's not getting as much work as he used to. Granted, he's like 70.
Yeah, no, but that's the market speaking. That's whatever. But
that's
like
the
this
market.
idea of silencing people, removing them off of platforms, saying you can't have a voice, like that stuff is
well, but
like,
what is the? I mean, if their voices actively to threaten people and to hurt people, maybe they don't need to be there.
right? But yes, certainly.
Like maybe there is a line.
Without a doubt. But I think that line is becoming so gray because it's being stretched and stretched and stretched to apply to cover everything. That line is becoming a sheet, right? And that's a dangerous thing. And I think that trend is not being spoken of because it's difficult to talk about. Right? Well, because it could mean that the good things that I care about will have a bad light cast upon them. So I'm going to ignore this ultra dangerous thing that's happening because it serves my purposes.
So let me put it to you this way. I've been in Facebook jail. I've done time. And you know what? I got out of Facebook jail. And I looked at how I reacted to people where I crossed certain lines in my rhetoric. And I said, you know what? Okay. I do see how maybe my rhetoric has been kind of not helpful because I wasn't actually trying to raise up the conversation. I was saying, you're dumb and you're dumb and you're dumb. And, you know, and then maybe I said something awful about how dumb they were. And then maybe it gets to this point where you have to say, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be approaching it in that way. Maybe I should approach it in a much more positive way where I say, you know, friend, I hear what you're saying. I disagree with you. I'm going to disengage now because it's not worth my engagement. Right. And that's actually what I do now. My biggest setup right now is at a certain point, say, okay, friend.
You know, it shouldn't be about convincing somebody else, right? It's like you have your opinion, exactly. That's all right. I'm not trying to convince you. I just want to hear your, okay, that's interesting. Here's my opinion. Yeah. None of it makes any difference to how the world is going to move. So why am I going to treat you differently because you have a different opinion than me? You know what I mean?
And what I'm going to tell you right now is no one is getting banned for that. No one is getting kicked off Facebook or Twitter because they say, you know what, I'm just going to disagree with you.
Right. But
and it's really,
with Twitter, there's decisions being made about what and what not to ban that are being done haphazardly and not, I think, enough thought being given to those sorts of decisions. And I think the cultural shift is such that it's hard to talk about that because so much is right. People have put so much on what all of this relates to that, you know, it's easy to let things go. And I think that is something that we need to look at. And because neither side is willing to view their own side in that way, everybody gets scared that nobody's going to look at it and it's going to run amok because nobody's willing to be self-critical and escalates and
but
escalates.
Again, I actually think that is a straw man. I think people are willing to be self-critical.
No, but we're straw manning each other. That's what I'm saying. We're straw manning each other.
Well, as I always say, there's only one group of people right now that are actively banning things. I don't know of anything on the left that's being banned by force of government. You know,
right. Because right now the cultural shift is in that direction. You know.
Well, like I mean, yes, yeah. If we got to a point where I felt the left was pushing towards silencing people by force of government, I would say that is wrong. But right now, all the left uses is just basic force of commerce and seems to, at least at its core, say, some like, intellectualism.
Yeah. I mean, there's nuances to everything, but I think it's getting to a dangerous point and it needs to be looked at seriously.
Yeah, but I think that people are. I think people are more than people think they are, because I actually think that people on the left worry about these things.
And the reason I bring it up is because I worry about the left, right? Because like we're giving away our legitimacy to have an argument by seeming like we're dishonest because we're not willing to have the conversations that are difficult. So now the other side thinks that we're just like them.
Well, yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean? And that's the thing that really, really bothers me, that it used to mean something, that people thought you were an intellectual, that people thought you were a smart person. Now that word has been sullied so bad that it means that you're this unthinking, and we're allowing that to happen.
Yeah, well, but the thing is, there's very little you can do to undo popular opinion.
No,
And the
but
only thing
like
you can do is,
it starts by being honest in the moments you have a
yeah,
chance to be honest and not being afraid of your side's reaction, you know?
and to that extent, that's where I get to my point of, you know what is important is, am I taking care of myself? Am I taking care of mine? Am I
Yes.
taking care of my world? And
Yeah.
that is it's what I always come back to. It's like,
Yeah.
I can only control
Yep.
this extension.
Absolutely right.
My arm and 12
Yep.
and 10 spaces past.
Right.
That is what I control. And anything beyond that, I can't control, and I can
Right.
only be as good of a person as I can be.
Right. But also like I feel exactly the same way. And I tend to tell myself to not judge people or try to be good at not judging people for opinions that don't matter.
Yeah.
Right. Like even if it's an issue I care about, if your opinion is different, I think the acrimony has gotten so strong that I try actively to try to say maybe we shouldn't be um like they could be good people and but they've been moved so radically by the emotional rawness of everything that they're not themselves either. Right. And I don't think most people can stand behind their opinions for anything beyond that. My people believe this, so I have to believe it too. So
Yeah.
sometimes I don't think even those people really, really stand behind it. If you really got them to sit down and think about it, I don't think they would stand behind those arguments.
Yeah. And you know what my line comes, and this is always where it comes down to, is, are you actively trying to silence or hurt someone? So as this is the thing. Like I said, here's the thing. When people say you can't have a Christian group in school, I say, well, no, that's stupid.
Yeah.
If a Christian group wants to be in school, that's great. Make sure there's a Satanist group next door to them so they can talk to each other. And maybe we can all come to figure out where we're going to be. But right now, again, where the force of legislature is being directed is at a very vulnerable population
Hmm.
that is, not hurting anyone, but they want to demonize, and it looks really scary to me because I know humans can be stupid, and I know humans can lead to a very humans like an amorphous threat that they can project on anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And like the first thing, if you study Nazi propaganda, their biggest argument was you don't know who's a Jew. Because the Jew can shave his beard and the Jew can look just like you, but if he's a Jew, he's still a Jew, and he will come against you. And you can actually find old reels of this, of Nazi propaganda films, where they go through this trying to explain to people how their next door neighbor, who doesn't look like the international Jew, who doesn't look like the stereotype that they were trying to sell as the evil Jew, was still a Jew, and that's why you can't trust them. That's why you must hate them, and that's why they're going to kill your children in your sleep, yada yada yada. And that is where we're at with right now, LGBTQ, women's rights, a lot of different things. People who aren't born here, and it's like, dude, my dad wasn't born in this country, and because of that, I'm very keen to the idea of the immigrant story and the outsider and the downtrodden. And I've always looked, and for what it's worth, even though it is a victim mentality, I internalized the victim mentality I had growing up in Catholic school, because one thing that Catholics impress upon you is that the world is against you.
Ugh.
And that you are a Catholic and you are outside of the WASP dominant culture. But because of that, I also come away from that with this idea, oh, if I am part of the downtrodden, then certainly I must be supportive of the other members of the downtrodden. If you are downtrodden, if someone says if you are not part of the mainstream, then it is my obligation as a Catholic to say, no, brother, you are with me. We are all in this together, for we are the least of our brothers, and we're the ones who must band together to be together
but
to
I think
survive it.
I think the danger is sometimes the sneaky vanity that sneaks into that idea, and that can run away with you. That can run away with you real hard, right? And to me, I see a good bit of that, a good bit of guilty, delicious, ugly, like vanity that comes with this, that people are really getting high on.
Oh yeah, and to be fair, that is where humility comes in. Because again, the one thing that I will say about all Catholics is we are told we are worthless, and we are bad, and we should feel bad, as Zoidberg would say, and that is, like I said, this is this internalization. As I always say, I'm a practicing Catholic because I'm not very good at it. But if I keep on practicing, maybe one day I'll be good at it. And the only thing I have to go on is loving my brother as myself.
Right. And
that's my goal.
I think that's amazing. And that's beautiful. And that's the way sort of like I see, though, not necessarily that we are bad. I think the message should be that we can be bad. Right.
Well, yeah.
That possibility is in us, that no one should think that they're above it. Right.
Oh, exactly.
Every evil you see out there in the world, you don't know what your circumstances can turn you, like the Joker, one bad day kind of thing, right? Like that's in us, and we need to monitor that and be aware of which side we're swinging to, right?
Well, exactly.
So, but that's a healthier way of looking at it than to say that you are bad, right?
Look, and here's what I'll say: I'm an alcoholic, so I understand this idea that, the more you want to parse it, the more you're just going to make an excuse to have another drink. So within that, and this is a guy who's actively drinking right now. So, I'm aware of the intellectual construct.
But like in a managed way, I think it's a healthy thing. It can be healthy.
No, it is. It is. Honestly, I think everyone should recognize, I think everyone should recognize that, what, I'm not the best person. I'd like to be better.
Right.
I have a lot of anger. I have a lot of, self-destructiveness. And I'm not going to judge everyone else for their anger and self-destructiveness. But I'm going to draw the line at if you're actually trying to hurt someone.
Right. Absolutely.
And if you're actually trying to hurt someone, I'm going to say, what, don't do that. That's stupid.
Right.
And, that's what we all need. We need to stop trying to hurt people and just trying to be better people. Okay.
Give people room to become better.
Exactly.
Don't write them off and say, now you're just, irredeemable.
No, there's no such. I believe in the Duke boy philosophy. If you're just a good old boy, not meaning no harm, I got no problem with you because you're not meaning any harm. And if you don't mean any harm, then, you're not going to try to do harm. Right. And if someone says, that's kind of hurting me, you can say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't intend that. And I'm not going to do that, either around you or whatever, or I'm going to try to make my argument. Although usually when you try to make an argument about why something that's hurting someone is a positive for you, you usually wind up sounding like an idiot.
Yeah.
Because I say, it's like, no, it's my Southern heritage. Really? What's your Southern heritage? It's like, oh, okay, no, that's not my Southern heritage. My Southern heritage is this other thing. And, let's go eat some biscuits and we'll change the flag on top of the car.
Well, even that to me is kind of dicey, like, because that's, what if someone genuinely is not intending it that way, right? And you're
well, yeah. Well,
you're
but the thing
enforcing that, and no, that's how you mean it. Well, maybe.
Well, no, but it is here. I guess what it comes down to is if enough people say, and it's like this: when you say that's how you mean it, no, that's wrong. But if you say, just so you know, this is an implication of that.
No, but again, like, that's just a clever way of saying that's how you mean it.
Well, let me give you. Well, and again, it's along those lines. It's like, so there's a lot of people right now that use U.S. imagery and patriotic imagery, flags and things like that, to mean a type of patriotism that's exclusionary, which is not my patriotism.
Of course.
My patriotism is very much, a patriotism of the immigrant and the oppressed and the huddled masses yearning to be free, both who have lived here their whole lives and were here before any white person came here, and people that were brought here and changed, and people that just came here because they're leaving the chains of their old place. You know, all these people are America to me, and there are people who don't feel that way, but want to claim that American identity as that. So I would never say waving a red, white, and blue flag is the equivalent, but when you wave the stars and bars, you don't have as much argument to be made about it, about what it means, you know. And well, I can see people feeling a certain attraction to that because, hey, look, I grew up in the 80s. I loved that flag because I had no idea its real implications. I only knew it from good old boys never meaning no harm. I knew it from Leonard Skinner. I knew it from where it came from in that time and place. But I would have to be a very intellectually stifled person to say I don't know where it comes from.
Yeah, but okay, so there's this video I saw recently of this building somewhere in Manhattan where somebody spray painted BLM on the side of a federal building, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so these people, these white ladies that work there are out there trying to clean it off. And this black lady drives up and she goes, "What are you doing?" "Oh, we're just removing the graffiti." "Oh, what do you mean? You don't support Black Lives Matter?" No, we're just cleaning it up. It's a graffiti. It's on the side of a federal building." "Oh, you don't think Black Lives Matter?" You know, it's so it's like
okay.
There's that element of trying to find an opportunity. Like you choose to take it that way.
Well, and again, you're using an individualistic situation to ascribe to a larger situation.
Right, exactly. But not you know, to say that that's a deceptive thing, but to say I'm using this to point to an idea that I think is representing in many other situations. And I think I see an element of that, of like choosing to, oh, now we're going to say, oh yeah, that one, I don't like that. Everybody, right. Yeah, I feel that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. The
Whereas
only difference is
that to become a thing, you introduce it into the zeitgeist and you enforce it, and then culturally it becomes a wildfire and it takes off. And now all of a sudden people are, yeah, you know what I mean? I
but the main difference is that here's the thing: Black Lives Matter as a concept is much harder to argue than other ideas, because the statement, here's what I always say: if your opinion is that all lives matter and someone tells you that Black Lives Matter, your response should only be yes.
Of course.
Because yes, clearly Black Lives Matter. Yes, I agree.
But somebody erasing graffiti is not an act of aggression against your philosophy.
That goes into a central question about the value of graffiti, and the value of graffiti in street art in a time of conflict. And this idea
if you're villainizing those girls, removing the graffiti, just doing their job.
No. Well, yeah, you shouldn't do that. But then again, that's one person doing something.
No. But to say that element is non-existent in this conversation, I don't think I could say that.
Well, I guess what I would say is, so I mean, here's, if you want to get into that three-dimensional chess level of it, and when you go into this idea of removing that graffiti, a circumspect person should stop for a moment and say, this is graffiti that was placed on this building to make a statement. What was that statement? How do we approach that statement? And this is the thing. This is where, if people were more circumspect, you wouldn't have these problems. Because immediately, once you start breaking down the entire argument of Black Lives Matter, it's like, well, okay, I see their point. You know, I don't think this is the right way to express it, but I do see their point. And maybe before we scrub the graffiti off, because arguably it's going to wear itself off in time from erosion, because it's probably granite and it's probably cheap spray paint, and it's all going to, you know, if it's not a porous concrete, the
No,
the
but
paint's not going to sink in.
it's you got to clean the federal buildings. You can't, you know what I
Well,
mean? It's like,
no. I mean,
no, like, you know
no,
what I
not
mean? It's like
necessarily. No.
at the
Why do
end of
you
the
need to?
day, a law was
What
broken
is
and somebody's just going and
what
cleaning
is the
the building.
harm? Here's the, well, no, you have to clean the building in the sense you have to wash it with soap and water. You don't have to clean the
Such a
building to remove
silly argument
graffiti.
that someone shouldn't like.
Well, I mean, but this is the
That's
basic
that's
question
the
about
kind
street
of ableistic things that I'm talking about. Like saying that that's okay makes the other side think that we're not right in the head.
art. What? That it's okay to allow street art to exist?
To chastise somebody for cleaning off a building.
No. Not to chastise someone for cleaning off a building. To say that maybe we should be more circumspect about how we treat street art.
No, but that's a different conversation. The
Well,
conversation
no, but that is
I'm
the
having,
whole of the conversation.
No.
That's the point. The point is
no.
that
Don't try to change the point because it's easier.
no. The point is that the women that were cleaning the graffiti, before they made that choice, or before their supervisor made that choice, someone should have said, is removing that really necessary?
Is that more
right
gross an display of human experience than somebody saying, "Oh, I got you. Oh, I'm gonna get you." No.
No. That person is gross as well. But at the same time, what the ideal is, and that's the idea. Should we move towards the ideal, or should we move to? Because here's the thing: everyone has an opinion.
No. I think the
and here's the
conversation
thing
we're having right now is how much of that resentment is manufactured.
Well, exactly. And what I will tell you is that all sounds manufactured. And quite frankly, I see graffiti on buildings all the freaking time that no one's removing. So you're going to tell me that, oh, we have to remove this graffiti right away?
Federal buildings.
Yeah. I see graffiti all over the place. I live in Newark, man.
No, but I'm talking about like a government building, right? Somebody's going to come out and clean it if you go graffiti a government building. You know what I mean? Like, probably get done a lot quicker than your street or whatever. You know what I mean? But like, I don't think anybody,
to be fair,
for somebody that's not doing anything wrong, it's really convenient now in today's culture to catch them on something and pretend that they're doing something wrong and win points.
Well, yeah. And again, like I said, and again, I don't know these women. I didn't see this video. I don't know the whole context of it. But what I will tell you is that I will guarantee you that whoever is posting this is probably being exploited by one side or the other.
Exactly.
And that's my big thing is that, that's where being circumspect comes in. And that is the goal of anyone, is to be more circumspect in society.
But also to be honest and not like making justifications for things.
But what I'm saying is that you can admonish someone for making a choice if you feel that choice was poorly reasoned.
But
here's what I'm going to tell you. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Those ladies cleaning
that. But it's when you do it dishonestly with an agenda.
No. Well, first off, any random person yelling at someone on the street, you can't assume they are in their right mind either. So when you get to this point where these people are cleaning off a building, I will guarantee you none of these women's lives were ruined by it. Unless, maybe they were doxxed, maybe it's been horrifying. I don't know. But if they have a day job and they were following their instructions and they were doing what they were supposed to do, whatever their job was to clean off this building. And again, here's what I'll tell you. Well, I won't say that. I mean, I was going to, that usually cleaning off of graffiti, it's not the secretary's job. It's usually the job of a contractor who's hired to come in on a weekly basis and remove stuff.
Certainly true.
So assuming these weren't contractors,
didn't look like
it's an active choice this person is making that then becomes this question of you.
And that allows you to villainize them.
Well, it allows us to question it. It allows us to question it.
No, it's not questioning.
It kind of is.
People are way more vicious these days.
Well, I mean, I don't know. If you yell at someone from the street, That seems like questioning. And it's like the
No,
idiots
it's
who
an
go through a
act of saying
Chick-fil-A.
you are a
and-
bad person, right? Like
Well,
painting
okay,
I've
and it's like
decided,
it's like
I've
the
judged
idiots who
you
go through a
and
Chick-fil-A drive-through
rated you.
to yell at the to yell at the cashier. To which you're like, why are you doing this?
Right, exactly.
What's
But
the actual
that's my
purpose of this?
point.
And
Like,
everyone says those guys are idiots. And in this situation, maybe this person's an idiot. But at the same time, like I said, these are people making a choice to remove this graffiti. I don't know if it's necessarily because they're just so worried about graffiti on the federal building, and maybe less that they just really don't think Black Lives Matter. That maybe this is a legitimate
it's painting them in a a scenario where it's perfectly reasonable to think the other way. It's much juicier to paint them as bad people.
And it's well, that's the, to be fair, you know what, when you deal with the blue wall of silence, at a certain point you got to say, you know what,
and you're putting all that baggage
protecting bad cops
on that person.
You're a bad cop too.
No, but
and if you're a person,
you're taking all that baggage and putting it on some random person, and
yes,
and that's the
because
problem.
they're making a choice. They're making an individual choice.
Yeah,
I think that's a structure.
I think that doesn't help togetherness, and I think that only sows discord.
Well, unless it actually is true.
Yeah, but you don't know that it's a random and people are like
again. I like to think that most people are capable of rational thought. And they know their actions have consequences.
I don't think very many people are capable of rational thought. And
okay, well, I guess that's the difference between you and me. I hold humans to a high standard.
I think we had I think as a species, we had the possibility of those high standards maybe 20, 30 years ago. But I think the state that we're in right now, I don't trust the state of humanity to be very rational at all.
Okay, well, I guess that is what we'll have to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And Mozz, I have loved this conversation.
Yeah, sorry, it's just been dragging.
I know.
But yeah, it's hard to stop.
I need you to do me a huge favor. I need you to do me a huge favor.
I'll send this out tonight for sure, and I'll let him know.
Just if you can, just do a quick speed run through it.
Just tell him exactly where.
Yeah, this is where we go off on bullshit alley.
Yeah.
So you don't have to listen to that.
Yeah.
Well, you might for fun, because I thought this was a great conversation.
I think this can be a podcast too, because I think this is the most.
Honestly, I would love to do this podcast. You know, honestly, just you and me talking, I think.
Right. I don't think there's very much respectful, nuanced conversation like this that's actually built on building understanding rather than you're right, I'm wrong, I'm going to convince you. It's more like, oh, that's okay, that's interesting. You know what I mean? And
okay, you know what? Send this out. I'll talk to Phil about that and say, I want you to listen to what me and Mozz did after this. And if you think that's something you'd like to have on your channel, let me know.
It is dangerous.
It is dangerous.
But I mean, well, you know, that's where the good stuff is, right?
Dangerous pastime. I know. You know, well, that's the thing. It's like thinking's a dangerous pastime.
Right. And that's engaging. I don't know. I think so.
I agree. I agree 100%. I love thinking. I love having these conversations with you. So I'd love to do that. And that, you know what the good thing about this is? We can do this weekly and we don't actually have to watch a TV show to do it. So
yeah.
Tuesday night. Yeah, absolutely. I'll get off work. We'll talk. You and me will sit and we'll just BS the night away.
Pick an idea and then explore it.
Yeah, well.
Oh, but what if we went here? Oh, what if we went here? Oh, but what about this? And then maybe at the end, both come out with a deeper understanding.
Yeah, we can try. I think there's a lot to be said for this. Let's stop this now before we go any longer.
I know.
Find